Hi, my name is Sarathy. I am a musician, percussionist, composer, producer, wannabe cricket player, tennis player, and all round just finding my way.
And he's today with us on Awaaz Radio. I think your guys' favorite podcast. I'd like to think like that. But
100%.
welcome to the show, Sathi. Welcome to the show. I'm
Well, thank you for having me.
happy to have you here. And yeah, how's life as a musician? How's life as a musician who is trying to discover a lot of things?
It's good, I think the main struggle, or I guess challenge for me right now, is dealing with the massive highs and lows that come with this kind of career, and trying to find a way to balance yourself and also take the highs as impermanent as the lows, to say ki yeah, sure, there are highs, but those will pass, and the lows, they will also pass. So to say that, actually take them both with a pinch of salt, if that makes sense. um, and it's much easier to say that than to actually live that kind of lifestyle. So life is good, life is bad, uh, but I love music, and like trying to stay connected to the things I love.
I think that also reflects in your music, the life you talked about, highs and lows, and the whole concept of time that you've been framing in your music. I had a question before start dwelling into more. Your there was this song, your first album song called Karma, right?
Karam, actually, yeah, Karam, yeah, yeah.
Karam. So that's a live recording mixed with studio recording. Correct me if I'm wrong, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Karam is a song that I recorded with this person called Ghulam Mohammed Siddi, and he's a Siddi musician. For those of you who maybe don't know about the Siddis are people who basically migrated from the eastern coast of Africa over to India and Pakistan, lots of places. But since the 8th century AD, first as part of lots of slave armies, with lots of colonists over time, like the Dutch, the British, the Portuguese, but also later on, and simultaneously actually, also as merchants and traders, and found themselves in various parts of South Asia. And so in India, people with East African heritage, very dark skinned, they converted to Islam as well a long, long time ago. They are known as Siddhis, as a sort of blanket umbrella term. So I made this album alongside this one performing troupe of Siddhi musicians, the one you're referring to, called Day to Day. And Karam is one of the songs on Day to Day. That's right.
Yeah. So Karam, when the song ends, because it's a live recording, do you was it intentional to keep "Main Tenu Samjhawan Ki" in the background? Because
You know,
songs end, there is a like somewhere in background "Main Tenu Samjhawan Ki" is playing, and the guy is talking about the marriage of Prophet, and it was just like, it is a coincidence? I don't know what this guy is playing, and I'm gonna ask him in person.
yeah, absolutely. It's a coincidence, but that's the beauty of live recordings. You're capturing a moment of when that happened. And for people who want to make that association, they can. And for many people who don't even realize it, it's totally fine also. But yeah, those are the joys of, you know, using like microphones in a room,
Mhm.
which are capturing so many things apart from just the voice.
I thought it was outside, so it was in a room.
Yeah, and it's just a lot of massive reverb on it, so it feels like it's outside. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was listening to song and it's coming to end. He's talking about the prophet. The story is coming to end, and I'm like, and then the Methanusam, and it's just playing in the background. I'm like, I don't know, it's intentional or it just happened, but it's one of the most beautiful ending you can give.
I'm glad you recognize that. It wasn't intentional. It was just something that happened. But the choice was intentional to keep it, if that makes sense.
Okay.
That's what I thought. That's what I like to think it that way. That it wasn't intentional; it just happened. Because again, it bounds into that concept of time for you. Like I've been researching you for a while now, and what I have been learning is this fascinating quote that I read in the one of the interview you get to the York education, or there was this. magazine, and you talked about utopias in it, and you said that it's very colonial mindset to think about utopia. Then at the same time, you're talking about like you're making albums like there is beauty already there. So it kind of I don't know, it's kind of like a debate in itself, that there is beauty already there. Then you're talking about utopia, but what you're trying to say is uh, we don't have to fight for utopias or think of utopias when we have something good going on already. Is that's what the concept we're coming for? I want you to talk about it a little bit more, because I want you to talk about Indo futurism with you as well. But I think this will be a leading point for us.
Yeah, that's right. Like you're connecting two different albums and songs. Utopia is a colonial project, and my last album, There Is Beauty There Already. And I feel like for every artist, there's always connections between albums, and even though there's been time that's passed between making those two pieces of music, still the ideas that you're thinking of as an artist remain the same, right? And I think you're right on touching on that idea that ultimately I feel that we shouldn't be always looking for grass that's greener, you know? We want to be able to recognize what the beauty that's there already within us, but around us. And often I think this idea of always trying to find a better place to live, a better opportunity, um, is many times tied with this idea of a colonial kind of settler colonialism. You see it nowadays with places like Bali, places in Sri Lanka, where you get these, like, what, for lack of a better word, these digital nomad type characters who are going, and in a sense it's like settler colonialism, right? It's just this modern version of it, because often people go to a new place, they do not want to have any like connection to the place. They don't want to actually talk and work with locals. They just want to set up a kind of paradise for themselves somewhere untouched. And by doing that, they're ruining the place and completely treating the place as a resource, which is essentially what all colonists have done throughout history, you know? So I wanted to draw kind of attention to that idea that utopia is always thought of as this positive paradise kind of place. But actually, when you look into the roots of the word utopia, you can actually see that it can be quite sinister, you know? So that was the idea with that song.
Yeah, that also connects with the fact that we are sitting in America right now, Canada, and these were settler colonial projects were kind of looked at as utopian, new land, new world, those kind of
100%.
names, like Zionism, Zion. These kind of names kind of reflect that, and I think you touched the nerve there. And it was kind of like even revolutionary for me to read your articles and then go back and listen to music and reflect on it, because it all connects the way you're uh, presenting it. But then also comes the idea of Indo-futurism. Let's talk about that, because that's the most interesting concept. Because I've listened to two of your albums. The first one, Day After Day, and the last one, There's Beauty There Already. And I think more settlers are more about the immigrants. What was the
More arriving.
More Arriving? More Arriving. Yes, these three albums. Because More Arriving was the first album I listened to because of Sunny. He recommended me. We were going to Niagara Falls,
Oh, yeah.
and because we talk with a lot of immigrant right activists. That's kind of our side work. And that day, something similar was going on, and then Sunny was like, "Hey, I want you to listen to this album." And then I was like, "Damn, this is awesome." Then, fortunately, I was able to listen to other two albums. But talking about Indo-futurism, it kind of reflects in your work, especially There Is Beauty Already there, because I loved it. That album was like something really different. I want you to talk about Indo-futurism in context to that album, because what it means to you, what kind of future are we talking about? What does it just mean, the word itself?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Indo-futurism to me means, it raises more questions than it poses answers. The questions that I'd like to pose are: who gets to dream of a future? Who gets to talk about what the future looks like? And that from a South Asian or Indian perspective, who's getting to tell people what this place looks like? Right now, Hindutva is a form of Indo-futurism, right? Like this idea of a country that's only of one religion. That's how some people would like to imagine this place. So I also feel like it's really important to give people who don't have those voices the idea or the chance to dream and imagine a future of their own. And often, like Indo-futurism is an idea there where we're talking about minorities, we're talking about people with very little class privilege, caste privilege, and religious privilege, and saying, what do you think the future should look like? You know, and the future needs to be built based on the ideals of the people who have no privilege. And that's a fact that I think a lot of good, positive, kind of progressive futurisms, regardless of where they're from, take into consideration, just like Afrofuturism. And so for me, in a lot of the way that I conceive of time, and I've always thought about time, has been deeply rooted in the cultural context of how I grew up. And I made this album called Kalak, which is basically the word kal. You know, kal could mean tomorrow, kal can also mean yesterday, depending on the context of how it's used. And I like that idea that one word could mean past and future. And maybe they're not so different after all. So I wanted to create this idea that the past is always interacting with the future is also interacting with the past in the way that we see the past. And the way we see the past has a huge effect on how we imagine the future. So it's not just a one way street. And I think that idea is actually a very South Asian idea of karma. Same thing. It's like what you're doing today is going to have an effect on what happens tomorrow. And what you did yesterday is having an effect on what's happening right now. So I think many cultures have this idea of time being cyclical, and I wanted to like use that as the foundations to how I think about Indo-futurism.
So, how did this idea came to you? Like, because we all grew up with different sentiments and belief systems. What was so reflecting? I will rephrase. What made you think about the time in such depth that it's got attached to you personally so much that it started reflecting in your music, your art, and the way we are talking right now? What happened, or what was there that kind of inspired you to use it as a source, as a medium?
That's a really good question, and honestly, I don't know the answer. Um, I think a variety, just the way in which many things have to fall in place at the same time for you to have a strong idea, right? Like, I think musically speaking, I wasn't enjoying playing music that's like written in lines. I was always thinking about the kind of music I was making as cyclical, because even in Hindustani music, which I grew up, you know, all your tals and like rhythmic cycles are all cycles. They're called cycles. I was thinking, yeah, there must be a better way to even visualize these ideas in rhythm. Um, and so I kind of developed this idea of a rhythmic wheel, that became sort of the artwork and central theme of my album Kalak. At the same time, the word Kal, I'd been thinking about that, and I was like, okay, how do we write the word Kal and not make it only look left to right? So I made this word called Kalak, which is basically Kal both ways. If you read it right to left or left to right, it's like a palindrome. So to say that time doesn't move left to right only or right to left, it can move both ways, you know? And so I don't know if that answers your question, but I think as an artist, you're always thinking in multiple different strands. And the beauty is when all those strands can somehow come together and have a theme. Sometimes it doesn't work, and sometimes it works better than other times. So yeah, I think it just happened over time. It was a natural progression for me to think about that.
Let's talk about why you chose that college, why you chose London for that for music. For
Uh,
yeah, I wanna ask more, but I want to know first this was.
why I chose to be in London? Did you say?
For music, you studied music in
Yeah,
London, right? Yeah.
yeah.
Why that university? Why that college?
I think for me, it was two things. One was it was the only place I could afford at the time. Sasta tha basically. Like I couldn't afford any universities in the US. Um, I wasn't getting a scholarship to go anywhere in the US, which would have been my first choice, honestly, in terms of the kind of universities and pedigree with those universities come with. But I was like, the one great thing I could get in Europe is being in a historic, beautiful, like culturally diverse metropolitan city like London. And I was like, yahan pe jaake what I'm gonna get, I'm not gonna get on a college campus somewhere in the US. In terms of the amount of musicians that you get from all over the world class musicians who are here playing from different backgrounds, different countries. So I thought that was something that always appealed to me to not just be, in a music school, but also in the evenings I'm going to go and check out music at local clubs. And I did that as much as possible. Um, and I really don't regret my decision. I love this city. I've been here for 16 years now, and it still inspires me. It still is despite everything, a wonderful place to live, for me personally.
You use African music culture in your work. I can see some sort of influence there. Was there a deliberate choice that you? Is it because of percussions, drums that you kind of went into that direction?
Yeah, you could say that. I think it's definitely a strong percussive influence, especially West African music. I think about it a lot. I listen to a lot of it where this ideas of repetition and polyrhythmic playing and hypnosis and transcendence, like just of constantly playing, and going into a state that's outside of your own body. I feel like a lot of music, folk music, does that all over the world. That's kind of like the main goal of folk music in many ways, especially for the performers, but also for the listeners in those contexts. So that idea has always fascinated me, and I've always wanted to develop music that kind of lets me do that to an extent, even though I'm performing on stages outside of the context of my, let's say, village. But in many ways, my village is the club. My village is is these metropolises basically. Um, so yeah.
Okay. And in terms of influence, was there any influence, any person, any artist that from African continent that kind of drive, make you, learn more or pursue this again? Same thing.
That's a good question.
People like Fela Kuti. Every time I hear your music, especially the color or the new one, that there's beauty. It's very hypnotic. It's very the repetition that you keep on explaining. It reminds me of that Fela Kuti music. Is there like a connection there, or I'm just like over it?
No, I love Fela Kuti. I love like William Onyaibor and a lot of music from East Africa as well. I love Siti Muharram. I love the Zawose sisters. I love lots of music. There's this great band right now called Arsenal Mikebe, which is three drummers. They're incredible. Yeah, definitely worth checking out. So I've always got stuff that I really like, and yeah, I mean, you're right. I think a lot of the ideas that keep drawing me back to people is this idea of like long form music, first of all. I don't particularly like, I think there's a place for it, but I don't particularly, I've never really made music that has like verse, bridge, chorus, verse, chorus, radio edits. I don't, even the radio edits I do are essentially just like cutting the songs that are like 8 minutes long. I just cut it somehow for the radio. But I don't really make music for the radio. I get some radio play, but it's not like I don't make mainstream music essentially, so I don't think about song structure the same way as maybe a pop artist would either. And all those things are very I think the same in the music of somebody like Fela Kuti, like 25-minute songs. It's just
25-minute intro and then stop.
Intro.
25-minute intro, but it's so similar to Qawwali in many ways.
Yes.
है ना? It's like this constant groove that goes on and on and on, and बीच में कोई आके सोलो करेगा, एक दो horns, मतलब कोई ऐसा unison figure होगा, and like in many ways very similar, Afrobeat and Qawwali, I think.
And I think listening to your music as well, I feel that there is a mixture, but that mixture is so melodic and it's so good. It just sits well with like the Indian music and the African percussion in the back, or some other kind of strings in the back. It just sits well on top of each other. That keep like there is beauty already there. It felt like the whole album felt like a one song.
I mean, it is one song. The way we recorded it actually was we recorded the whole piece, 40-minute piece first. And then I did some overdubs on different sections of that piece. But 85% of that song, I would say, is just one take, 40 minutes long. We just played. And that was the idea. We went into the studio saying ki ye karna hai. We want to do one 40-minute piece of music. So we did, like, if I remember right, 3 or 4 different takes of the same 40 minutes. So we did 40 minutes, stopped, played again the same similar kind of thing. And then I just picked one of those takes and I was like, अच्छा इसको लेके ये होगा मेरा skeletal structure for the album. और इस पे मैं अभी overdubs करूँगा, like थोड़ा production लाऊंगा. And that's essentially what the album is.
And
Because
I love
what's-
the video too. Sorry, Rumi. I love the video, the concept of the video that you made. Many people around the world
Yeah.
record a walk on each song or something.
Yeah, basically, as I was making this album and I was playing it so much in my studio, I found that actually I really liked listening to it when I was doing something, like a little chore, maybe folding my clothes, yeah, like doing the dishes or going for a walk. And so I thought, like, if I could ask 40 different people for a 1-minute video of their everyday walk. I didn't want some fancy walk. I didn't want them to be like, अच्छा तुम अभी आज Niagara Falls जाके मेरे को 1 minute का video भेजो. ऐसा नहीं. Like, I wanted to see your locality, Again, because the idea is there is beauty there already. So आपके जो माहौल में जो भी beauty है, that will come out without you trying too hard to show it. And that was the idea, कि 40 people, that makes 1-minute video, so 40 minutes, and that's the length of the album. So I asked friends and family. It was really fun. Like, I just wrote like a email to about 40 people who lived in different parts of the world, and I said, can you please do this? And everyone was very kind with their time and just quickly recorded something and sent it to me. And it was really fun. I really enjoyed making it.
It's what happened with me when I was listening to the album. And 20 minutes passed by. I'm like, is this the same song?
Yeah,
I have to check and go back. I'm like,
that's great.
I'm on like track 9 at this point. I'm like, what?
No, great, because that's the effect I was hoping it would have. Ki like time flows and hopefully you lose track of time, and ऐसा भी लगे कि एक ही गाना है, क्योंकि the way we've made it on the record as well, there's no crossfades. So as soon as one track finishes, the next track starts immediately where the last track ends. So if you listen to it, actually, if you don't have a crossfade on your streaming service or whatever, then it just plays as one song for 40 minutes. Yeah.
Especially with the first 4 songs, it felt like there was no change at all. There was like no break. वो end तक गया, वहीं से उसने pick किया, and then it just keeps going and going. It's like a constant progression.
Yeah.
I wrote a whole piece on it.
Ah,
I think you should read it.
I will, yeah.
You feel.
I think it was a
sure.
hard job for you to write that, because the way it's hard to distinguish between tracks. It's just
हाँ अच्छा हाँ I saw the piece. I saw the piece. Yeah, you've yeah, very nice. It's interesting the way you've thought about it. Every track as a different entity in some ways, but also part of a larger chronology of how it
I call it
flows.
a ritual, a cleansing ritual. It felt like what happened. It just in my mind it came at like एक सूरज है और उसकी किरणें आपको आकर्षित कर रही हैं और वो कह रही हैं कि आ गया है वक्त आ गया है जैसे नहीं होता एक मौत का you're about to
हाँ
die
yeah.
and then there is a मरने से पहले एक प्रोसेस जाता है आपके दिमाग में
मुझे तो नहीं पता बट हाँ सुना तो है हाँ
तो मेरे को ऐसे फील हुआ लाइक आई एम अबाउट टू लाइक मेरे जो मेरा करेक्टर है दिमाग में जो ये सुन रहा है इट्स अबाउट टू डाई एंड इट्स गोइंग थ्रू अ रिचुअल व्हेन ही हैज टू एंटर अ न्यू वर्ल्ड एंड दैट्स लाइक कंटिन्यूटी पीस ऑफ इटसेल्फ लाइक वो उसका चल रहा है इट्स लाइक इंडियन कंसेप्ट ऑफ रीइंकार्नेशन और यू नो मूविंग फॉरवर्ड इनटू द वर्ल्ड और एनी अदर वर्ल्ड अगर है कुछ ऐसा तो होगा बट इट फेल्ट लाइक दैट कि एक पूरा रिचुअल
हाँ नहीं रिचुअल इज़ द राइट वर्ड एंड आई एम ग्लैड यू हैड दैट इंटरप्रिटेशन क्योंकि मैंने ऐसे कभी नहीं सोचा था बट मैंने कुछ अलग सोचा था एंड दैट्स द पावर ऑफ यू नो म्यूजिक इंस्ट्रूमेंटल म्यूजिक पर्टिकुलरली I feel कि you know it doesn't tell you everything and it lets you interpret and make judgments of your own which is kind of the beauty of it.
आपने क्या सोचा था
मैंने तो बहुत सारी चीज़ें सोची थी like I mean you know the idea for me was कि एक लंबा पीस बनाना है उतना था मेरे दिमाग में कि ये एक लंबा पीस होगा तो it'll feel like a stream of consciousness just like you said. अब all the peaks and troughs you know they mean different things to me in different days ऐसा नहीं है कि एक ही मीनिंग है एंड आई लाइक इट दैट वे थोड़ा ओपन भी होना चाहिए कि लाइक हर दिन किसी का मूड अलग हो कुछ और मीनिंग भी आ सकता है उसमें सो या स्टेइंग ओपन टू दैट
nice. Do you love collaboration and most of your work is just collaboration. This is how you operate, I feel like.
करेक्ट
And what do you think that when a collaboration feels right to you and not extractive?
Yeah, I think for me na music is a very social activity. I've always thought of music कि like साथ में लोगों के साथ बनाना है that's the main point of music कि like एक भी दूसरा बंदा हो या बंदी हो रूम में it just feels like we're connecting and it feels like there's a reason to be doing this you know um, so that was always my thinking also I come from more like improvised tradition of music na so jazz and Hindustani Indian classical music both improvised music traditions so I feel very comfortable improvising in the room with somebody you know even one person three people doesn't matter so I find like that brings out a version of me that I can't do alone in the room if I was alone in the room and I like that version of me so that's always been part of my creative process ki collaborations are important for me having said that actually now I'm in the process of making a solo record ki just me because I feel like I almost need to go back to this idea it's the thing that scares me the most making a record just by myself but then I have to ask the question why is it scary I have to ask myself in a form of therapy you know कि like problem क्या है insecurity है क्या कि won't be good enough are you not good enough to make a record so मुझे बनाना है कुछ अकेले and I want to see if I can enjoy the process and I think that'll be my next thing but going back to collaborations yeah I think it's my favorite thing in many ways
I feel like there is like a graph happening from your first album to now you're saying solo. I was thinking about it yesterday कि कैसे आपने पहली जो album बनाई is a curiosity like something like you want to find some history. उसके बाद like then you move to your second album Kalak. It was
उसके बीच more arriving आ गया उसके बीच
उसके बाद more arriving गुस्सा आ गया एकदम लाइक आपने प्रेजेंट को समझा थोड़ा सा हिस्ट्री को समझा थोड़ा सा फ्यूचर को देखा फिर गुस्सा आया आपको लाइक मोर अराइविंग का गुस्सा आया जब निकला अच्छे से निकला धमाके से निकला डैम खोल दिया आपने सारे उस एल्बम में देन यू मूव टू द नेक्स्ट एल्बम व्हिच which you feel like you move away from something else now. You move to coming back to you, I guess.
Yeah.
Right, coming back
Yeah.
to what you want to do, like what you feel all about all of that, like, जो भी अब तक सीखा. And then you're talking about solo now. इसमें क्या क्या scene है अभी?
I always feel कि जो भी album आपने last बनाया ना,
हाँ.
उसका एक तो दो चीज़ है. One is there's always hints of the next album in that last album, but also artists have to grow. I find it very weird when people make almost the same album again and again. मुझे लगता है ये क्या है, मतलब like you're not really growing as an artist, or are you not showing, you're not being honest about the kind of thing you're into. But for me, like you said, starting with my first album, which was one thing, like looking at a specific group of people, my reaction and connection to them, to Gusse Wala album, more arriving, to fir Indo-futurist album, Kalak, to then almost like I feel like coming to terms with my self album, There Is Beauty There Already, like my Zen album, thoda, and now almost going even deeper in that idea कि ये बनाया There Is Beauty There Already, उसका मतलब क्या है? There must be beauty within me also, and maybe it's time to look inside to see and actually allow for that to come out in the open, and maybe that's where my next thing is going, कि देखना है मेरे को कि क्या कर सकता हूँ मैं if I set that limitation. I believe all great art is made when you have limitations, ना? If you have a free reign, कभी कुछ बनता नहीं है ढंग का. So the limitations often are circumstantial, or often are set by the artist themselves, And for me, I like setting myself certain things, like, okay, for this album, I'm going to do this, 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 and this. And that then gives me almost more creativity because I've set myself a framework to work within. So that's what I'm going to do next.
Okay. In your decision making about the concept, the idea of your work, कितना influence होता है, like whoever your listeners are, whoever your friends and family are, वो कितना influence करते हैं आपको कि ये सही था, ये सही नहीं था, ये करना, ये मत करना, ऐसा कुछ?
See, my friends and family I listen to a lot क्योंकि उनको पता है, like my wife, she knows what I'm thinking all the time, and I run every idea, however small, however big, past her, and I always value what she says because I think she's right most of the times about me, and seeing things that about myself that she can see that I might not be able to see, as a person who loves me, who's in my life 24/7, I think I try and take advice, but I also know that I am someone who is very vulnerable to influence. So there are times when I know that I need to step back and just do the thing that I need to do. और बाद में पूछा जाएगा किसी को भी कि आपको कैसा लगा, अच्छा लगा, नहीं लगा. But there are times when actually, I find it funny actually, when I'm making music, my own album, I often stop listening to other music. Like, not out of like a very conscious decision. ऐसा हो जाता है कि मेरे को नहीं सुनना है अभी. Actually, I need to just focus on the thing I'm doing and not be influenced by any one thing that I hear. So I think there's a balance ki when do you cut out the noise and when do you let the noise in. They both can be useful. If you make music completely in a vacuum with no relationship to people and how they feel, then I think that's also wrong. But listening too much also can then take you so far away from what you want to make कि फिर जो भी बनाए, you're never going to be happy with it. I feel like I am very lucky also कि the people who listen to my music almost trust कि मैं जो भी करूँगा वो, like they'll try and understand. Like both of you have spent so much time and effort like doing your research and listening and paying attention, which I really value. But it's amazing and I really value that, and so like, thank you for doing that. But I think that will always stay, hopefully, touch wood, कि like जो भी मैं करूँगा वो intent के साथ करूँगा and I'll do it honestly. So फिर सुनने वाले होंगे hopefully, नहीं होंगे तो भी at least I'll make something that I'm proud of.
if we apply the color concept इसी पे कि उस एल्बम को सुन के you were given a feedback. Let's say more arriving ko sun ke, you will definitely get like a lot of interesting feedback. There's more to say in that. है ना? तो how did that you know कि उसने आपको कैसे आगे मोल्ड किया उस फीडबैक ने, like does
I
that
think
do you allow that?
100%. I allow some of it. It depends on what the feedback is, you know. So like I think More Arriving is correct कि गुस्से वाला रिकॉर्ड था क्योंकि मुझे गुस्सा था तब. Now the next album अगर वो गुस्सा नहीं रहा या it's already been communicated, तो there's no point trying to make, even though More Arriving was very successful, there's no point trying to chase that feeling because I'm only going to be disappointed because it's not going to do what the last thing did. तो वो मैंने जल्दी से like तय कर लिया and figured out कि ये नहीं होना है. So what is next? And then I thought कि More Arriving is very much about the present. It's very much about my anger as being South Asian in the UK as of 2017, 18, 19. ठीक है, अब इससे आगे कैसे जाना है? So then we figured future, Indo-futurism. And that's how also like my connection to thinking about the future started. He like, what is the next thing for me? Okay, let's try and think about Kalak. So that's how it goes. And then Kalak ke baad socha, actually what's the most radical thing I can do is maybe have a drum ensemble. Drums के बारे में कोई सोचता नहीं है. Drums being the center of the musical like decision, and there being no quote unquote melodic instruments, but the drums can be melodic. And so I feel like in many, in you know, classical, Indian classical, Western classical, दोनों में there's this hierarchy कि melody ऊपर होता है, rhythm below होता है. Melody is top. Or I wanted to play with that idea कि नहीं, rhythm is also very central, and the drums are not necessarily only rhythmic instruments. They are also melodic instruments given the opportunity. So I thought कि actually in many ways the most radical music I've made is There Is Beauty There Already because of the musical decisions I've made in that.
because it feels like it's going on the वो drum centric है
4 ड्रमर है उसमें और कोई नहीं है.
और percussion है उसमें, African percussion है, बाकी है. एक सॉन्ग है जहाँ पे आपने स्टार्टिंग में शंख यूज किया,
हाँ,
वो बड़ा सही लगा. मैंने उसको अपने रिव्यू में महाभारत के साथ कंपेयर किया. ऐसा लगा वो क्लेंजिंग का टाइम आ गया, अब उसको आगे बढ़ना है. अब वो शंख बज रहा है और वो जाएगा, वो आगे बढ़ेगा. इट्स लाइक अ बैटल हैव स्टार्टेड नाउ. नाउ उसको अपने आप से डील करना है. वो कर लिया, जो सूरज का काम था उसने कर लिया. अब आपको खुद का अपना काम करना है. वो मेरा वो ऐसा लगा कृष्णा और अर्जुन वाला मोमेंट हो गया.
हाँ, हो सकता है, क्यों नहीं.
बट वो बिल्डअप ऐसा था कि वो लगा उस मोमेंट में. मुझे ऐसे लगा शायद मैं कुछ ऐसे, आई थिंक you were very right about, you make music or you make art which affects you in the moment and it reflects the present realities of your time. Because I feel like that. So as well, I might not be as great artist as you, but कहीं ना कहीं मेरी फोटोग्राफी में या फिर मैं रिव्यूज करता हूँ या फिर मैं कुछ लिखता हूँ, वो जो इमोशंस मेरे उस मोमेंट में होते हैं वो कहीं ना कहीं रिफ्लेक्ट करते हैं. That kind of differentiates me from journalist to an writer. So I wanted to ask, because I read so many articles about you, and everybody's saying trying to put you in the box of like jazz artist. I wanted to ask you, like, what do you feel, what your genre is? Because I feel like you are a genre defined person. Putting you in a genre is kind of like disservice done by those articles sometimes. But what do you feel?
I feel like every artist is genreless यार.
Yeah.
ऐसे देखा जाए कोई आर्टिस्ट नहीं है जो एक जॉनर में बैठ सकता है. I think, you know, genres help for some people to access your music. Ki suddenly people are calling you jazz. Okay, you'll start showing up in all the top 10 jazz, whatever. So some people will discover you through that. They may be fans of jazz, but they may have never heard the kind of jazz that you're making. Same thing with electronic music, same thing with Hindustani classical music, same thing with minimalist music. I feel like all those influences are strong in me. And ऐसा है कि there are some albums that sound more jazz, some albums that sound less jazz of my own. So I've always felt कि as a musician, as a person, even the two of you, right? Like when we were 17, 18, we listened to very different music than we listen to now.
Yeah.
So why should I be making the same music if I was making when I was 17 and when I'm now 38? नहीं होने वाला है ना. So you have to evolve. So I've always felt कि genres के साथ कुछ लेना देना नहीं है. जितना आई नीड टू सॉर्ट ऑफ से कुछ ना कुछ तो बोलना पड़ता है, क्योंकि लाइक यू से प्रेस रिलीज में कुछ तो बोलना पड़ता है, जर्नलिस्ट आस्क यू स्टफ, तो मैं बोल देता हूँ, बट लाइक आई नेवर टेक इट सीरियसली. एंड ठीक है, आई थिंक अल्टीमेटली when you listen to the music you get it, you'll see कि क्या है या नहीं है. And I always say कि you know when you come to the shows, no one thinks about genre when they come to a live show, any live show. ऐसा कोई नहीं सुनता है कि हाँ मैं अभी पता नहीं जैज़ सुनने जा रहा हूँ या मैं इलेक्ट्रॉनिक म्यूज़िक सुनने जा रहा हूँ. तो आप म्यूज़िक सुनने जा रहे हो एंड व्हेन यू आर देयर यू आइदर हैव अ गुड टाइम और यू डोंट, व्हिच इज़ फाइन. बट ऐसा कोई जॉनरा का कोई सोचता नहीं है.
So, आपकी your advice to young musicians is stop thinking about genre and just
100%. Don't think about what people think of you. 100%. As a young artist, तो आपको जो you need to find what you like. As a young, you should not be thinking whether my music is like listenable, not listenable. If you start thinking at that age what people want to hear from you, then game over. It's already, you know, you need to just make, practice, and actually fall in love with music. That's the biggest and most challenging thing, to stay in love with music even though you have a music career. I think that's the biggest challenge, actually.
We were listening to this local artist Just Prince, जो यहाँ पे है, and he's been breaking those boundaries. वो वही बना रहा है, वही गा रहा है, that which is, you know, not defining himself. एक एल्बम ऐसी आई है, एक एल्बम वहाँ पहुँच गई है, एक एल्बम कुछ और ही गा रही है. And I feel like more people are now attracted to that kind of thing, कि chaos में मज़ा आ रहा है, कुछ ज़्यादा ही मज़ा आने लगा है सबको. Talking about that, you said improvisation. This is your key thing in your jam sessions or in your even final product. Improvisation. जैसे आपने उपज के साथ जो किया था नाइट ड्रीमर वाली में, डायरेक्ट टू डिस्क, दैट्स अ बिग थिंग. आप बना रहे हो और सीधा रिकॉर्ड कर दिया उसको उसी टाइम पे, है वही डिस्क.
बहुत मज़ा आया उसमें, क्योंकि उसमें क्या है, वी टॉक्ड अबाउट इट बिफोर रिकॉर्डिंग की लाइक अब तो ये जो है वही है. So even if there's a mistake, you can't treat it like a mistake. You know, Miles Davis said there are no mistakes. So if you do something that surprises yourself, you have to go with it.
Huh.
So
you call this when you do this sort of improvisation, do you look for structure और open रखते हो हमेशा end कि open है तो कुछ चले, मतलब stray open हो जाए कोई बात नहीं?
Mostly बहुत open रहता है ये सब, because I think the more you set, there are more things that can go wrong also.
Okay.
क्योंकि उसमें आप सोच रहे हो हाँ ये याद रख के करना है, और फिर आपको वो भी है बैक ऑफ योर माइंड कि ये तो एक ही टेक है, अब क्या होने वाला है, अच्छे से नहीं होने वाला है, उसमें आपका दिमाग इतना चल रहा है, यू आर नॉट फोकसिंग ऑन द म्यूजिक दैट यू आर मेकिंग. ना इट्स लाइक इफ यू आर प्लेइंग अ स्पोर्ट और समथिंग, I don't know, if you're playing cricket and you're always worried about getting out, you're not going to play well, you know. So same thing, like in a scenario like this, it's like aap baja rahe ho, you want to stay in the moment and just enjoy it as much as possible and not worry about mistakes. So it's about creating that environment also with your band members. You want to be like, at least for me as a band leader, I try and be very relaxed. Ki like, boss, there are no mistakes. The only mistake you can make is actually not play or think too much. Just listen to each other and हो जाएगा.
How do you operate your collaboration? How आप उसको initiate कैसे करते हो? आप artist को कैसे reach out करते हो? क्या बोला जाता है? I'm talking about the technicalities, paperwork. जो लोग अभी मतलब नए हैं म्यूजिक में, वो कैसे कर सकते हैं? क्या गलतियां avoid कर सकते हैं? क्या shortcuts या efficient ways they can do things?
Many times it's just me reaching out to people saying, hey, I love your music. Simple, honest. कि मुझे बहुत पसंद है आपका म्यूज़िक, मुझे आपके साथ कुछ करना है.
Hmm.
Or somebody might write to me and say the same thing and be like, हाँ, I've heard your music also, it would be cool. And many times it just starts as a friendship. I think that's the best way. कि आप आ जाओ, मैं आ जाओ आपके घर, चाय पीते हैं, खाना खाते हैं, and we talk about music, we listen to music together, कि हाँ मुझे ये पसंद है, I like what this person did, and that way you almost create a shared language that you both like, you know. And then you get in the studio, and look, all collaborations don't work also. Sometimes you do something and you're like, नहीं जमा कुछ, ऐसा भी होता है. But it's like any relationship, you know, whether you're dating or friendship, kuch bhi hai. Like sometimes it clicks, sometimes it doesn't click, and that's okay. Happens. In terms of the legalities, it's always good to be clear. Ki ab jo ye, is this my project or is this a joint project? You know, if you and I are going to be doing a record together, if it's going to come out under my name, then let's talk about what that looks like for you. But if it's going to come out under both our names, then we should split everything 50-50, you know. And I think those conversations are awkward but very important to have early on, because we've all been in situations, whether at work or music, ki you think ki you trust people ki ho jayega, and sometimes nahi hota hai wo, you know. And so I think you almost, if you respect somebody enough, you will be also upfront about what you're expecting from a relationship. That's all. So yeah, I think be clear about that stuff from the onset is always good.
You are doing.
So, yeah, go ahead, Sonny.
You are doing most of it on Bandcamp these days. Most of the work publishing there, right? Is that how you're gonna do, or are you gonna still stick with some labels?
So I've started my own label, Otherland. The last album, There Is Beauty There, already came out on Otherland. It's great to have your own label because it just means that like I can put out music whenever I want to, no pressure from anybody, and it's actually great to have that set up, you know. And it doesn't mean I won't be releasing music on other labels, but just to have, I know for the future also ki if there's stuff that nobody else wants to release that I'm keen on releasing, I have the infrastructure and know-how, you know. After 10 years of releasing music, I feel like I know enough I know what to do roughly. Bandcamp is great. Bandcamp you know, is better than streaming, obviously, in terms of what it pays the artists. Streaming culture, I'm actually against it. I don't use streaming services at all to listen to music. Even I quit and I just use Bandcamp. I set myself like a monthly allowance ki like itna paisa hai, I'll spend on I'll say 15-20 pound महीने का. हाँ, 3-4 digital album आ जाते हैं उसमें, like 7 pounds. So and that's actually a lot of music. So let's say 3 albums a month. Bhai, it's actually quite a lot. Think about it. So so I do that. I've been doing that for about a year now, and yeah, I love it. I recommend it actually to everyone.
Rumi, I need Awaaz fund for this.
Awaaz fund.
Awaaz dedicated fund for.
I've been burning DVDs. Sorry, did I say that name?
Good. पता है, I always I love this thing कि मेरे को ये Google alert आता है मेरे नाम का. So I've set up, you know, कि कोई कुछ मतलब आर्टिकल लिखे तो मुझे ईमेल आता है उसका. तो कई बार मुझे ऐसा ईमेल आता है कि आपका टॉरेंट निकला है.
अरे वाह.
तो मुझे इतनी खुशी होती है यार कि लाइक कोई बंदा बैठ के मेरा सीड कर रहा है. Honestly, and my wife thinks, she's like, are you mad? लोग साले फ्री में तेरा म्यूजिक सुन रहे हैं. I'm like, dude, this was me when I was 17, 18, 19. And those are the real music fans. People who torrent music are the real music fans. क्योंकि वो लोग
लेंगे
अगर so much,
उनको लेना हुआ तो लेंगे वो.
No, but they did a study also, and they said कि the people who use torrents actually are the ones who contribute to the music industry more. क्योंकि they're the same people who will go to your live shows, who will talk about you.
जितनी ऐड हमने आपकी की है, मैंने आपकी की है, like किसी ने paid I did buy your music. I have a record. I have a big record, Joe.
No, but I don't mind. My point is like I would rather somebody torrents my music than uses streaming platforms.
हाँ,
All right.
ये 100%.
मेरी कमाई
You-
पे किसी और को नहीं खिलाना.
क्यों खिलाओ किसी को? एंड लाइक आपको इतना शौक है मेरे म्यूजिक में, देन यू आर एक्चुअली गोइंग थ्रू द प्रोसेस ऑफ लाइक सेटिंग अप अ बिट टॉरेंट थिंग, डाउनलोडिंग इट, अपलोडिंग इट टू योर म्यूजिक प्लेयर. दैट्स क्वाइट अ लॉट ऑफ वर्क इन टुडेज डे एंड एज. इट्स नॉट अ जोक. सो आई एम लाइक यार इतना एफर्ट कर रहे हो तो लाइक अच्छा लगता है मुझे कि लाइक या वेल डन.
Sarathy, I want to say that कि आपने अब अपना label बना लिया, you have your own label and everything. I feel like ये request नहीं है मेरी तरफ से, एक kind of like thought है जो मेरा है कि आप will you ever do the music scores like film scores?
Actually, I would love to. I've just finished doing the score for a film from here. I can't say more about it, but it's a really beautiful film. And I've done additional music, so background music किसी और का है, मगर मेरे songs है उसमें, like नए songs वगैरह. और बहुत मज़ा आया. And I really want to do more film scores. I would love to do more. Yeah. So if anybody's listening, yes, please.
A24.
Wow, मज़ा आ जाएगा.
No, because I was telling Just Prince too, because his music is very kind of like similar genre breaking, but also kind of like keeps going. It's continuing. His whole album, the last album, Oceans, was like that. When we went to the listening party, it felt like that, and I was like, Prince, are you gonna do? Are you gonna do scores? Are you gonna do just instrumentals? Because that
It's
is something-
interesting. I think actually more and more independent musicians are doing this. Also because as film producers, they have realized that if we want something genuinely interesting, there's no point going to your regular like soundtrack artists. Excuse me. It's actually more interesting to try and work with some of these independent musicians who have a really specific sound and are really good at doing something. और उनके फैंस भी है, तो उनके फैंस भी आएंगे फिल्म देखने. So in many ways I'm seeing that more actually. And I think it's a good thing. It's nice. Also, like there's so many interesting films being made, like left field experimental films that like I would love to contribute, and I know so many other musicians who would do such a great job making scores.
Yeah, because what comes to me like when I listen to your album, the African percussion, I probably Ludwig Garson,
No.
the music producer for Black Panther and the Sinners movie that came in recently.
Acha. Oh yeah, the Swedish guy.
He's a Swedish guy.
Ah.
I see like his music is kind of like that. Sometimes he uses some kind of like African percussion and that elements. And in both Black Panther and the Sinners, he did that. Because in Sinner, he did the blues music.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
And that's also a beautiful story because both of them, the Ryan Coogler and Ludwig, started in college together and they became friends. Like whatever you're told, right? Whatever you suggested other musicians do, they actually did that. They stayed together, and every Ryan Coogler movie is kind of done by Ludwig.
Amazing.
And
So
they
nice.
understand each other. They come off at each other. So that's why the beauty of I don't know whether you have watched Sinners.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
What do you feel about the music in the movie?
It's amazing. I love the film. It's great. And like also who would have imagined that like this Swedish white guy made this music?
Yeah, the Delta Mississippi music.
Yeah.
Because
Amazing.
blues was kind of my genre. I don't know, I get attracted to it a lot. Blues, Indian folk, and this kind of like genre. And that movie was like totally revolutionary for me. I was like, what the fuck I'm watching? It's just not just the movie, it's the music. It just keeps driving you. And the whole theme behind that movie was like amazing. It felt so refreshing. As music, as film, as a film nerd, it was like, wow, this is awesome. This is peak cinema.
It was awesome. I agree.
One last question, Sarathy, before we conclude this. I know we are on a clock here, but as you don't believe in time, but
Yeah, sadly, I don't believe the rest of the world believes in time.
rest of the term believes in time. But my question is because nowadays there is a very big debate like separating art from the artist. Many of the musicians have done controversial things, or many artists that comes in controversies and things like that. What do you feel about that? Like, मुझे पता है आप ऐसा कुछ नहीं करेंगे, but
ऐसा भी नहीं है, कर सकते हैं. I think it's impossible at some level to separate the art and the artist. I think it takes incredible privilege also to be able to separate those two things, you know, as a listener, as a consumer also. And you have to be aware ki if somebody you hate or has done something you don't agree with, has made something you really love, that always affects the way you look at something. And music doesn't exist in a bubble. It exists, and your perception of music is influenced so much by the people around you, the politics of the day, how you're feeling, that I think art and artists are inseparable, you know. And how we come to terms with bad people making good art is one of the biggest challenges, and it's a personal challenge more than anything else. And yeah, I don't, we all do it on on an everyday basis, that we don't know also, no? We don't know so many things, and we can't consume everything. It's exhausting to consume everything, trying to know the intention behind every single thing.
Mhm.
It's kind of impossible.
But if something is genuinely happening in front of your eyes, where a artist is prejudice in its way or form, then I also genuinely believe it's difficult not to separate them.
100%. It's impossible. I can't listen to that artist, however much. होता ही नहीं है. मेरे से नहीं होता है. I think if it does happen, if some people can do it, then I would ask the question ki, like, how much do you care about the thing that you're actually upset about?
Hmm.
है ना, कि ये prejudice आपको actually affect हो रहा है, या आपको बस performatively अच्छा नहीं लग रहा है कि हाँ 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 ये बंदा for example I don't know Zionist है,
Yeah.
but I love their music. I was like, okay, that means maybe आपको actually पड़ी नहीं है.
Yeah. Because my question comes from the Kanye thing, because Kanye came back with this such a big concert that nobody would imagine that after so much what he has said and done and presented himself as, अभी भी उसका ऐसे concert होना, it kind of like,
I mean इंडिया में बुक कर रहे उसको और यूके में उसको बैन कर दिया.
yeah. And then his comeback was like big in US too.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think and only an artist like you can tell me. And I think
No, I don't think anybody can say, but like what I mean is, ultimately it's problematic, man. It's like also how much India is veering towards like Zionist tendencies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Our prime minister is going and talking in the Knesset, So, yeah.
So do you think there is a separate future for Indian music at last? This is my last. I will end with this.
I think for me,
I will add to it, because there's so much Bollywood. क्या कहेंगे उसको, बॉलीवुड का एक इंटीग्रेशन है, उसका एक मनी है, उसका एक अपना एक इंडस्ट्री है. हम उसको तोड़ पाएंगे एक इस तरीके से कि हम इकोसिस्टम से निकल के अपना एक उसको डिफाई कर पाएंगे?
आई थिंक तोड़ना भी जरूरी नहीं है. जो है इट फीड्स अ सर्टेन थिंग, एंड maybe a large part of it is not so bad also. Like it feeds a certain kind of entertainment, ठीक है. But I think more and more people are also disillusioned by that, actually. And I think of like some of the greatest music, I believe, in India is not coming from the places we think we should be looking in, like big cities. You see those sound system guys in Bengal, देखा होगा आपने वो टेप के साथ क्या कर रहे हैं.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. फिर all these like amazing percussion ensembles in Kerala, the Chenda Melam stuff, temple percussion. ये सब सुन के ना और देख के मेरा दिल खुश होता है कि like ये सब amazing like niche like music cultures that have survived and will continue to survive is what's interesting to me, and what makes like a place like India so fascinating and like culturally and musically so rich. अब आप बॉम्बे में बैठ के like sorry to say but कोई like whatever R&B बना रहे हो, मेरे को ज़्यादा इंटरेस्ट नहीं है उसमें personally. Why the hip hop thing was so big and is still big is because it was coming from more working class kids. Once that stopped happening or became appropriated by Bollywood and mainstream, it became less interesting.
Yeah.
For me, again. So you'll always find these kind of smaller genres and like interesting people making interesting music around the world. And India, mein, I don't think you can think of it as one thing anyway. So Bollywood will do Bollywood. There'll always be some guy with a tape machine trying to slow down something and DIY sound system. Or mera dil wahan hai. So I don't know. It's about finding those places. मेरा जो इंस्टाग्राम रील चल रहा है मेरा हाथ वहीं पे रुकता है कि ओ ये इंटरेस्टिंग लग रहा है और बाकी सब doom scrolling हो रहा है. So I don't know. I think everyone finds their own way, and there's amazing music happening. There's amazing people making music. You also have to say that like internet and Instagram has provided that access to be able to see that stuff happening. You know, it's good and bad.
So I was always wondered, like, you worked with Anushka, you worked with many Alam Shah and
Alam Khan.
Alam Khan, and you worked with many other big artists. Kamasi Washington too. I feel like you toured with him. How did you like? How does that make you feel? क्या ये सब आपको positive vibes देते हैं? Like the way that you work with them and you move through this timeline. Ki this collaboration makes sense. This group makes sense, and you would love to work with them, or would you like to choose someone like them?
Yeah, I mean, I've collaborated with different people like this, like you mentioned, Anushka, Alam. I went on tour with Kamasi, but different times of my career. So all those things had different meaning when they happened. With Kamasi, we were on tour in 2016. So this is my first album. मुझे कुछ पता नहीं था तब, and we were playing like this weird like Indo jazz जो भी है, to like massive like 3,000-4,000 people. और मैं सोच रहा था ये क्या है. And but it was amazing. The reception was great, and I've never played to that kind of crowd after 10 years also. मैं बना रहा हूँ music कभी हुआ नहीं है. But also to tour with Anushka in her band and also produce music with her, it shows me another way of working. Hyper professionalism, really good, and attention to detail, attention to lights, set, costume, amazing. Like amazing format and really powerful music, and then you see the amount of people who really connect to that kind of music. It's very powerful, and it's another kind of learning for me. It's like acha ye bhi hai, and yeah, all these things, like I'm lucky to also be doing all these things outside of just making my own music. I feel like that's one of the joys also, to be part of other people's projects and not constantly just be in my own head thinking what's next.
One last question about More Arriving. The way you chose people in that, you chose a nice poem for that. Pravasi, expect. I got a postcard आपने जो record के साथ दिया, बड़ा सा अभी भी मेरे फ्रिज पे लगा हुआ है, मैं दिखाता हूँ इसको.
Nice.
And then you chose Manto for Bol,
हाँ.
which you had a video of it too. And then you chose Delhi Sultanate for Cooley, Prabdeep, and they are talking some very very interesting Tata company का पूरा भांडा फोड़ रहे हैं वो सारे हम, and
East India Company वगैरह.
ये वो है ना. So you MC मवाली बात कर रहा है, रूट्स की बात कर रहा है, वो मुंबई शहर की बात कर रहा है. ऐसी अलग अलग जगह से आवाजें आ रही है मेरे को. और फिर then you put yourself Mango डाल दे.
वो भी मेरा फ्रेंड है एक्चुअली, जिया अहमद जो है.
जिया अहमद, अच्छा.
जिया ही है, मैंगो इज जिया, एंड बोल भी जिया ही है.
अच्छा, वो एक्ट भी वही था क्या, एक्टर?
हाँ, वीडियो में वही है, जिया अहमद. हाँ, amazing guy.
When I started learning the video editing ना, तो मेरे को डाउनलोड किया मैंने ये कोई सॉफ्टवेयर, तो मैंने कहा मैं क्या करूँ, तो मैंने ना आपका वो गाना डाउनलोड किया, सिटी ऑफ वर्ड्स.
हाँ.
अरे भाई क्या भयंकर गाना बनाया आपने वो.
हाँ, वो भी बहुत सिनेमैटिक, एक्चुअली इट्स ट्रू, वो सिनेमैटिक गाना है.
हाँ, तो मैंने ना जितने भी स्टॉक फुटेज मिल सकी फ्री वाली मैंने उठाई, तो मैंने एक सिटी ऑफ वर्ड्स पे एक वीडियो बनाई कि जस्ट आई वांटेड टू लर्न द सॉफ्टवेयर, बट आई आल्सो वांट टू एक्सप्रेस माई सेल्फ कि ये गाना सुन के मेरे को क्या फील हो रहा है, कहाँ जा रहा है ये गाना. एंड या उस टाइम पे मैंने वो रिकॉर्ड बाय किया था. लाइक आई डोंट नो हाउ आई डिस्कवर्ड यू, आई स्टिल कैन नॉट रिमेंबर दैट, but I feel like I was following Prabdeep, and that's how I kind of get in touch with your
Yeah.
music. I know you're probably not gonna make another record like that again, but are you still in touch with those people, and do they ask you to make something together for their record or for their albums?
I'm in touch with some of them. I'm not in touch with Prab so much because he suddenly, this was like 2017 18 Prab before he blew up, and बहुत मजा आया उसके साथ. Very nice guy. And so I'm not in touch with him so much, but all the rest, like the Delhi Sultanate, MC Mawali, Zia, all these guys are really good friends. They became really good friends of mine. And सोच तो है कि और भी कुछ बना है साथ में. It's that thing, कि again same thing कि like वो बना दिया है. There's no point trying to make it again. So unless we have a new idea, new vision, वो आना चाहिए basically. But वो दिमाग में चलता रहता है कि like हाँ कुछ तो करना है. In fact with Zia, जो बंदा यहाँ से है, and he's like amazing. I've always thought he's a brilliant, one of my favorite like modern day poets. जो Mango जो गाना है, that's all him. It's like so funny, so like sad, so like about him. It's amazing. It's one of my favorite things. And I've kind of forced him to record that for me. I was like, यार तेरे को करना ही है ये, तेरे को मेरे record पे चाहिए. And हाँ इमोशनल, पूरा इमोशनल क्या, सब फिजिकल ब्लैकमेल सब किया मैंने उसको. And हाँ.
Okay, continue, please.
No, and so I think I'm still in touch, and the idea of More Arriving was कि like there is no one single brown voice. ना ये भी था कि I wanted South Asians from all over, people like Prab, people like Zia, people like Delhi Sultanate, who would never otherwise interact with each other potentially, to all be on this record, because it was about all of us defining what it is to be brown in our own way, in our own circumstances. So that's what More Arriving was.
I want to do one tiny task. I think it will not take more than 2-3 minutes.
Homework. Homework नहीं, sorry,
It's not a
classwork.
homework. It's like a activity. I don't
Activity.
know. Maybe आपको अच्छा ना लगे, but
नहीं चलो.
I created something.
ये क्या है? Oh my god.
So it's a competition of your.
क्या बात है यार?
So let's begin the tournament. Okay, let's see
Oh
how.
my God.
Let's see.
Okay, you have to
हाँ.
select ये कौन सा गाना आपको अच्छा लगता है, 2 गानों में से. आपके गाने
Okay.
सारे, ठीक है?
अरे मर गए यार, ये तो नहीं होने वाला है. ओके चलो.
Okay, भजन या इंदर?
दिख नहीं रहा है मेरे को. बिगिन टूर्नामेंट किया गया तुमने? भजन. हाँ भजन.
Ooh.
Okay, बोल या करम?
बोल.
प्रवासी या that which is not?
प्रवासी.
कूली या people's history?
कूली.
The return of Bismillah?
अरे यार.
ये tough है.
बिस्मिल्लाह.
Okay, Mumbai या days?
अरे मर गए यार. चलो मुंबई.
Okay, looking for a ghazal or CBW?
Oh,
हाँ looking for a ghazal.
looking for a gazelle.
Earth या mango?
अरे मैंगो.
ये मारेगा नहीं बेचारा. Birth of a son या good night?
Good night.
Hajj, Mavra?
Oh fuck. Hajj.
Okay, dreaming या remember Begum खोया?
Begum.
Sultana's dream या कलक?
Kalak.
Back in Khalifa या Utopia is a colonial project?
Utopia.
Elephant hangover, flight into now?
Flight into now.
The rhythmic circle, so she said.
So said Said.
So said. Okay.
हाँ.
Street in Mumbai, journey
हाँ.
in Satyanarayana.
Street in Mumbai. Street in Bombay.
भजन अब round.
अच्छा अभी सेकंड राउंड. मर गए यार ये तो. ठीक है.
भजन.
बोल.
बोल जीत गया. प्रवासी कुली?
प्रवासी.
बिस्मिल्लाह मुंबई?
मुंबई.
मैंगो गजल?
Mango.
Ooh.
Good night या हज.
Hajj. Remember, Begum. Utopia. Street in Bombay. बाप रे यार.
चलो शुरू ही करते हैं.
Final round है, quarter final.
यार ये क्या करवा रहे हो मेरे से. लाइक दिस इज प्रवासी. मैंगो. बेगम. यूटोपिया.
Semi-finals.
साला. मुझे पता है क्या होने वाला है. प्रवासी. बेगम. चलो यार बेगम.
अरे.
Thank you.
So
I just feel like
audience.
because the
Okay.
yeah, remember Begum Ruqayya, because it's we still play it at live shows and it's become a completely different song now, and we've found ways to, I don't know, like make it new every time. So, and it's such a simple song in a way, बहुत simple सा melody है, and I often hear, पता है, after audiences leave concert के बाद कोई किसी कोने में ऐसे गाता होता है, तारा सुनाई देता है मेरे को. और lot of times I get people just sending me Instagram पे themselves just like singing तारा. So I don't know why. It's because it's like such a simple melody and like a nursery rhyme almost, but ऐसे ही मैंने बना दिया था एक घर पे बैठ के. So I just feel like हाँ,
Why you chose to include her?
because I was thinking about this futurism now. Tab I was thinking about futurism and I was researching people who'd written science fiction before me, and her name kept coming up. Ki this lady in 1905 wrote this amazing book, Sultana's Dream, and wrote this incredible thing, like sci-fi writer from Bangladesh in 1905.
1905. Damn.
So मैंने सोचा यार ऐसे भी लोग हैं, and like these are the people we need to be celebrating.
120 साल.
These are the and these are people who at that time, in a very conservative time, are writing such radical ideas. So I've always said ki, and I say this at my live shows, ki the progressive voices are always in places where we don't think they are, but they're always in places when we least think we're going to find them. And we need to, like, when we ask the question, who is allowed to dream, who is allowed to imagine a future, it's people like her who should be at the forefront of this kind of conversation. And ऐसा भी नहीं है कि नया idea है, ये तो 1905 की बात है. So I like to talk about her at the live show even now, because I say कि if you don't know who she is, check her out. बेगम रुखैया. और उनका बड़ा यूनिवर्सिटी है अभी, बेगम रुखैया यूनिवर्सिटी बांग्लादेश में, विमेंस यूनिवर्सिटी. So her legacy is huge, but there are a lot of people, especially like us, South Asians, who don't know about her. So yeah.
Science
So
fiction
I
and
like
from 1905.
वही तो. So I'm like, and a woman and a Muslim, all these things. So I'm like, yeah, her story is incredible.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Sarathy. क्या मजेदार
Thank you.
बातें की आप.
नहीं, thank
Your
you.
knowledge, and thank you for your time.
Thank you for the quiz also. End में पूरा सत्यानाश हो गया,
दिया
but
दोगे
like
मेरे को फोन काट.
नहीं, कोई बात नहीं. In a way, it was quite interesting to think about it that way. But yeah, no, I enjoyed talking to you guys a lot. Thank you so much. Thanks for listening. Honestly, thanks for listening to the music. It really means a lot to me.
No, at least quiz से हम बेगम के बारे में बात कर पाए.
That's true.
Yeah.
Maybe it was time.
Meant to be.
कल.
Meant to be.
हाँ, इसका रील बनेगा बड़ा.
हाँ. Very good. Very good.